Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, great.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the regional LPC meeting. We haven't met in a while. Our last one, I believe, was in October. We have a pretty decent agenda today. I figured we could start with welcome and introductions quickly, since it is a new year and there are some new people here I see. So I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, sorry about that. So hi, everyone. My name is Daniela Arias. I am one of the program coordinators here at the Hub. We are the RBHAO for Region 1. I don't know. I will call on James.
Hi, good morning. I'm James Olson. I'm the prevention coordinator for the Stratford Partnership for Youth and Families. Are you calling on someone? Do you want me to?
You can.
Tammy.
Hi, good morning. Oops. Hi, good morning. I'm Tammy Trojanowski. I have the good fortune of working with James here in Stratford, and I'll call on Melissa.
Good morning, everyone. This is Melissa McGarry. I'm the project director for TPOD Trumbull's Prevention Partnership. Diamond.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diamond Seed with the Human Services Council on behalf of NOAC Partnership that is co-run with Positive Directions. So I'll call on Margaret.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Margaret Watt, Positive Directions. And I'm, like Diamond said, we work together in Norwalk, but I'm here representing the Westport Prevention Coalition. And continuing the Positive Directions theme, I'll call on our former employee, Kathy Hazlett.
Morning, everybody. Kathy Hazlett, Program Director, Coalition Coordinator for Fairfield Cares Community Coalition. Ellen, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Ellen Brzezowski from Greenwich Together, Kids in Crisis. Emily.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm with Darien's Thriving Youth Task Force. Great to see so many faces that I know. I'll call on Giovanna. Do you have to introduce yourself?
You waited till she was eating, right?
Sorry, that was mean. I didn't intend to do that.
Stop me from talking, Margaret. I'm Italian. For those that don't know me, Giovanna Mozzo, director of the Hub, longtime RAC RBHO member. Let's see. Ooh. Ina, did you go?
Okay. Okay. I'm Ina Anderson, project coordinator for the Bridgeport United Coalition. I work stationed at GBAP, and I'll call on my GBAP fellow workers. So let's go to Marcelin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcelin Joseph, but please feel free to call me MJ for short. I'm the HIV program coordinator here at GBAP, and I'm gonna go ahead and call on Ariana.
Good morning. My name is Ariana. I work at GBAP as a health educator. And yeah, so I'll call on Caitlin. I don't think she went yet.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, microphone. I'm program coordinator for the Hub. I also lead the Cacs initiatives, and I'm the LPC support person for Weston, Wilton, Westport, and Fairfield. I think Ingrid, you're the last one.
Yeah. Managed to get squeezed into this foreign office that I'm in right now. Hi, I'm Ingrid Gillespie, and I facilitate the gambling awareness initiatives for the Hub in Region 1. And I work closely with, I don't know if Terry's on, for Stanford, and with Ellen in Greenwich. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Next on the agenda, we just have some due date reminders for the LPCs. Your next set of demographic forms are due April 15th. We are going to do a mid-year check-in the week of January 4th. After this meeting, I will send out a doodle poll with days and times. I will be attending all of the meetings. And then depending on which town, Caitlin and Victoria will be attending as well. And we'll just meet together for about a half an hour just to check in to see how things are going. And then I know it's only January, but final reports will be due July 15th. So just so you guys have that in mind. Next, we'll just do some updates. Ingrid, if you don't mind sharing a problem gambling update.
Okay, so problem gambling, we have our regional team covered, so anybody is welcome for our quarterly meetings or to join our team. If you want more information, you can email Giovanna, Daniela, or myself. But what's happening with problem gambling is one of our goals this year is to increase the awareness within the LPCs. And I know Kathy Hazlett's on this meeting. And what we have now is we have two presenters, Caitlin from CCPG and Kelly, and they do a really nice 30-minute Gambling 101 overview. I don't know, Kathy, because you brought it into Fairfield Cares, do you want to say anything about that?
They did an excellent job. They just presented for about 30 minutes. That was a tall ask of them. They provided a lot of the same information that you get in part one, which is great. That was exactly what our coalition needed. And we're actually going to do a follow-up with Connecticut Renaissance at our February meeting. And so we're also taking a look at our student survey, since we don't ask about gambling or gaming at this time, and probably looking to revise what we've done in the past. So it was very informative, and I highly recommend them. Very engaging. We had lots of questions afterwards. It was a terrific presentation.
Yeah, so thank you. So yeah, I could say that's one of the ways that we're working on increasing the awareness, especially this year with the legalization of sports betting and online gambling. We're finding Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling is getting more calls. There's more of an interest in that. March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and as a region, on March 15th from 1 to 3, we've just confirmed we are going to have a webinar on sports betting and online gambling, and we're really targeting the college age group. So for people on this call that have connections with the colleges, we'll be reaching out to you. We have a presenter from Ohio coming in and Caitlin from CCPG, so we'll keep you updated, but that's going to be the event. We partner with the other RBHOs and it's a webinar. We have a lot increased youth interest in gambling. I've done a number of trainings with RAM Council, New Canaan RAM Council, for those people that know Joyce Sexsmith. We've done CAP trainings with them, which is a training overviews drugs, gambling, etc. And they asked for it again with more of a focus on gambling. So overall, we're starting to see that. Another one of our goals as a gambling awareness team is to get more screening into every treatment center. So Liberation Programs is having a training from Melody, I think in March, and our whole goal is that more people would screen and then refer to Connecticut Renaissance as they are our DEMIS designated expert, better choice it's called, on gambling. So there's overall momentum's increasing, lots happening. If you have any other questions, want to get involved in some way, like I say, please email me or Giovanna or Daniela. Okay, that's it. Does that work, Daniela?
Yes.
Great. I do have a comment. I typically don't watch a lot of TV, but when I have been this past like 2 weeks, I don't know if anybody else is noticing, but holy commercials!
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So because, and I commercials, I kind of like, don't even think about it. I don't pay attention to it. And it's just unbelievable. What is it called? Something Kings?
DraftKings.
DraftKings. And I looked at Bruno and I said, what is DraftKings? Like I vaguely remember what DraftKings is. And he even mentioned how they weren't a gambling source, and now they are. They're all about gaming and gambling. And I'm just thinking on a prevention level, is there any bills coming through to amend the gaming gambling bill on promotion, commercial promotion?
So I don't know that there's a specific one on that. The CCPG takes the lead on that, and we've asked them for legislative update, but we do know that one of the focuses, policy and practice wise, is that there's a certain percentage of money that's supposed to be designated for prevention. And the intent is to advocate for more of those dollars. But Giovanna definitely will check, ask them for an update, because you're bombarded now with that. And
wow.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. It was like, you know, typically, what is it, about 3 to 4 minutes of commercials in between a show. And I think I saw maybe a good 2 minutes of different commercials. I was like, whoa, that's a lot.
And similar to marijuana, we're seeing a real influx of billboards promoting gambling as well on our highways.
Yeah. So you're right, Melissa. It's just, and that's, we said, so the percentage of money designated for prevention is minimal. There was an article 2 weeks ago, the executive director from Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling, and the people from the casinos, because they, like the Tobacco Health Trust Fund, they were designated a certain percentage has to go to prevention, but there's so much more money coming in. So now they don't have to give it to PGS or CCPG or wherever. Some of it's going to go to a study for at Yale around cognitive behavioral therapy, what I understand. But we need to be advocating for more of the prevention. So I will follow up on those specific questions, but yeah. And anytime you guys see that, that really helps us as a regional team, because people, you know, any way that you can contribute to strengthen the prevention around that. So it's maybe it's an observation, maybe it's an article, just send it to me and Giovanna, we'll get that out. Okay.
Margaret, Ingrid, rather, I have a question. Do we have the same data on exposure advertising increases youth, decreases perception of harm, increases youth use? Do we have the science behind that the way we are starting to have with marijuana?
I think I read something a long time ago about adults, but I'm noting that question down and we'll follow up, and Danielle will get that information. Those are good. Yeah, because it's, I know I work with Caribe kids. It's a group of Bridgeport kids. I'm working with them for many years now on gambling awareness, and they'll talk about it and they, the observations, but we know how the teen brain works, right? So you're thinking that, so thank you for that.
The data is there from tobacco, and it's applicable to any addiction, right? The more, and it's applicable to anything. So the more often a kid sees an ad for something, right? That's what the purpose of an ad is, to sell, to encourage someone to buy. We know that youth are enticed to try it. They see the romance of it, right? So
exactly. The other association that people have been asking more about it, because it is the one addiction that has a significant connection to suicide, is that concern about the increase in suicide with the increased exposure and access to the gambling. So there's so many different filters like everything else, but definitely an increased interest. So if you would like that presentation, it is really good. Thank you. I'm right now at a middle school, so if you hear a bunch of shouting in the background, that's what it is.
Okay. Next, we had Victoria on the agenda. She wasn't able to make the meeting today, but sent an update for suicide and the Regional Suicide Advisory Board. So I will read that for her. RSAB is creating, or is this the hub, is creating a private page specific to postvention and will be similar to the private LPC page. On this page, there will be resources, relevant trainings, and general information for all who have access to review. The next RSAB meeting is Friday, March 11th from 10 to 12 on Zoom. All are welcome to attend. It's a great way to get connected to other resources in the region and hear about what other towns are doing. You can RSVP on our website, thehubct.org/events. Erin Mulhern, who is an epidemiologist for the Connecticut Department of Public Health, will be presenting the suicide data from last year and explain trends, new information, and overall findings. If you would like to receive any updates from the RSAB, please email Victoria and she can add you to the list. Question, Persuade, Refer, QPR trainings will be continuing to be held on the first and third Tuesdays of every month from 9 to 10 a.m. If you want an organization-specific training, you can reach out to Victoria as well, and we can facilitate a private training. The Hub is also working to expand the number of different trainings as it relates to suicide prevention and postvention, so be sure to look out for information as it is released.
I'll say that
Can you repeat the date and time for the next RSAB?
Yes, I can put it in the chat as well. March 11th from 10 to 12.
I will say it's been a long headache with trying to finalize the DEMIS and DCF contracts. Initially, we were supposed to have a contract for October 1, 2021, and that never happened, even though we hired Victoria to be that suicide prevention postvention coordinator back in September. And finally, we have received the contract. It's signed and effective January 1 is when we're really supposed to be doing a lot of the work. So you're gonna hear a little bit more from Victoria. I do suggest that if you do have a postvention team or you attend one, please connect them with Victoria. I know she's reached out to some folks already, but she would like to, part of the agreement with DCF and DEMIS is to attend those postvention meetings to gather information and hear what the teams are really struggling with and what's been good, what's been bad, so that then she can compile something for you all so that you're not struggling too much with whatever it is. I know even back, I want to say early last year, we were having a lot of issues with, not issues, but just really trying to figure out who does what, where, and how many minutes, is it paid, is it free? And I know all of you have seen the email from us regarding the compilation of trainings. We want to know what trainings not only do you do, but your other stakeholders. You know, when working with Stanford last year in their summit, I couldn't believe how many different trainings child guidance does for the community. And I had no idea. So that's good to know, especially if that's something that they offer on a regular basis. So anything that you know of, you want to just fill out that Google form so we're aware, because once we compile everything, we're just going to shoot it back to all of you so that it's easier for you to see what speaking engagements are in our area.
Next, I see Jeremy and his team were able to make it. They are going to give a recovery-friendly workplace update on the initiative they're working on.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. Jeremy Cosbob. I'm with RIASAP and RBHAO Region 1. And so we're here to talk about recovery-friendly workplace. And I apologize if I'm interrupted. I have a 3-year-old running around here right now. I'm at home, like many of us, dealing with this lovely plague. So I came on with RIASAP in the spring, and one of my hats that I'm wearing here in Region 1 is to push forward the initiative of recovery-friendly workplace. I've just introduced myself. I think Alvin's on here as well as Anna. So maybe Alvin, you could introduce yourself. Or Anna.
Hello, I'm Anna. I am under Recovery Friendly Workplace, and it's nice to meet everybody.
So Anna's an AmeriCorps member. She's with us over at RIASAP. And so just to give you a brief update on this initiative, it is, I posted some information in the chat box. There's a link there to a letter in process that's going to be going out to the broader community in Connecticut. This is something that's happening nationwide. A lot of states at different levels have pushed, agencies and organizations to be recovery friendly. And so we're here today just to talk about what we've done in Region 1. We have currently submitted to the state, working alongside partners such as DPH, DOL, DEMIS, and the governor's office. We have 4 agencies that have been submitted for certification to be recognized as recovery-friendly workplaces. We have 2 more in the hopper, and if you have any questions or you want to get any more information on what that process looks like, you can check out that letter. There are some links in that letter in the chat to the Recovery Friendly Workplace website, as well as the process and the toolkit. If you're interested, please reach out to myself or Anna or Alvin. I believe Alvin's saying his mic's not working. We would love to meet with you and your agency and talk about what that looks like. And it's a pretty quick process, to be honest with you. It's not that difficult. And
Can you hear me now?
yeah, Alvin, how you doing?
Oh, how we doing? Hi, everyone. I'm Alvin Perez. I am a peer navigator with the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative. My job is basically, once we meet with a company and they've agreed to come on board and become a recovery-friendly workplace, I walk them through the entire process, go over documents, help them coordinate meetings, identify peer champions within the company, and answer any questions they may have through the process. We work from a toolkit that's an implementation guide for us issued by the state. And that helps us guide interested companies through the entire process. At the end of the process, we're still understanding what's happening because of the administration changes and everything. But the plan is they would have a public event with the governor, acknowledging them as a recovery-friendly workplace, as well as badges and window clings throughout the office that they can share, so that it's very aware and visible for all employees to see, as well as visitors. So I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you, Jeremy. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you've said it all. I think I've spoken enough already. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Alvin, or Anna.
Ask a question? Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Could you go into a little bit more detail? What does a recovery workplace look like? Recovery friendly workplace look like? Does that mean they give, are they holding sessions in their employment setting? Are they giving time up? What does that mean exactly? Go into a little more detail, please. Thanks.
Alvin, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I can take it. So basically, it's openly acknowledging to employees that whereas a company may have been a zero tolerance policy, negative connotations around substance abuse, kept under wraps, not really spoken about or addressed in a humane fashion, to a openly acknowledging and accepting substance use disorder as as a disorder, as a disability, as an illness for which people deserve the right to treatment and fair treatment, recovery treatment and fair treatment amongst the workplace, where the shame and despair that's often associated with substance use disorder is changing nationwide to an attitude of tolerance and acceptance and encouragement. In hiring practices, though it's not often openly said, companies may not consider somebody who has a substance use disorder or history thereof, and they openly acknowledge that that's off the table, and if there's rumor of somebody having a substance use disorder who is applying for a job, as long as they acknowledge that they are in recovery, if they need be, it's not, nobody's pressured to do that, but if they're acknowledging that they are in recovery, then there's nothing restraining them from being hired. I'm proud to be a part of this. It's really and HR groups, CEOs, it's easy, to talk to them about it, because they truly want to be that type of company that is accepting and diverse and not turning away people. I mean, in today's job market, there's 7 jobs for one person who's looking for employment. Competition is tough out there for resources and people who are skilled, and they need to consider all candidates, regardless of what their background are. If they're the right fit for the job, then they should be fairly considered for that job, and not have any kind of disability restraining them from that job. So that's what it looks like in the workplace, and that's where there's acknowledgement or public testament placed in billboards and break rooms. There are stickers and badges placed throughout the office indicating that they are a recovery-friendly workplace. Employees are encouraged to ask questions. There is a peer champion that operates within the company. It's not a paid role, it's somebody in an existing role that is generally trusted and people can comfortably talk to. That's usually the person, and also it helps if they're actually in recovery and they can talk about and relate with their own experiences towards a person coming forward with a substance use disorder.
Yeah, and to speak off of what Alvin was just discussing, it's the four agencies that we've submitted to the state are similar agencies to ourselves, right? They're nonprofits. We had great relationships with them, so we decided to do this initiative to sort of rough out the process with them because of that. And one of the feedbacks that we got initially, and some apprehension, is like when you're, excuse me, hold on one second. I have a 3-year-old. Hold on 1 minute. To speak to that taboo of a culture within organizations that's not accepting of people. I simply just put the question out to all human resources that we met with in most of those meetings and said, like, raise your hand in this room if you don't know someone with a substance use disorder, right? Like whether it's alcohol or anything, gambling. You guys were just talking about gambling, DraftKings, like. We all have somebody, whether it's a friend or a family member or whatever, that you've seen struggle with something. So, whether we want to accept it or not, whatever whatever sort of environment we're in, it's not taboo. It's like real life. You know, everybody's got somebody that they care about or is working with somebody that that's struggling. So it's a pretty, for me, it's a pretty simple ask. You know, it's a pretty straightforward thing to discuss. And I think it's, I'm very proud, like Alvin said, I'm very proud to be part of this. I think it's, you know, it's in its infancy in this state. You could look at Nevada, you could look at New Hampshire, you could simply go on Google and type in recovery friendly workplace in those states, and you will see the level to which they've gotten to. You know, hundreds of agencies being certified as RFW, from a mom and pop shop to, you know, an agency with 500 employees. You know, just adding something to that internal toolkit, that EAP, that safety committee, that wellness committee, of having a standing agenda item of RFW and providing, you know, training and things of that nature. It's I think it's just a really great thing. So yeah, I'm proud to be here. Thank you.
It's incredible. I mean, when you look at Nevada, their governor is openly a person in long-term recovery, and the advancements they've been able to make with the funding around this recovery-friendly workplace is phenomenal. As well as New Hampshire, they've just been at it for a couple of years, and they've really jumped on it when the funding was made available. This comes in under the 2019 presidential announcement that there is indeed an opioid crisis that needed to be addressed. And this is where Recovery Works funding was made available nationally to each state. So this is our effort, and we're in Region 1. We attended an opioid advisory committee meeting this week, where it was announced, I'm a payer navigator for a recovery-friendly workplace, and it was announced that other regions will have a full-time payer navigator added as a part of the new budget. So I don't think this will be going away anytime soon. If anything, it will be larger. My hope is that we have more peer navigators in our region. It's really an honor for me to work on it. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you, Jeremy and Alvin. We really appreciate you coming and explaining more. You guys are doing awesome work, and I look forward to seeing your expansion of other organizations joining.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate it. Have a nice day and a good weekend.
You as well. Thank you. Next, Caitlin, if you want to give an update about the Cacs.
Yes, so if you're not already familiar, the Cacs, or Catchment Area Councils, the hub facilitates the Region 1 of Southwest Connecticut Cacs. I lead the initiatives alongside with my co-chair Ingrid, and we have our next meeting next week on the 20th. I just sent out an email, so if you're interested in coming, you are invited to do so. You can RSVP on our website. The Cacs is an open group for individuals with lived experiences with mental illnesses, mental challenges, or substance misuse. There's consumers, providers, funders that come to our group, to our meetings, and we have 2 presenters lined up for next week, as well as some updates from DEMIS. And we have a legislative forum subcommittee happening. So this is a small group of volunteers. Right now we have about 12 members who are going to help and assist in participating in the upcoming legislative short session next month. It's just one of our goals for Cacs to identify gaps in our region and advocate for better behavioral health system and treatment and such. So we have recently met, actually, our first meeting was last week where we were brainstorming our legislative priority topics, and there will be a Google form going out to everyone to get feedback from CAC members about the ranking of our legislative priority topics so we can move forward in our legislative action. So again, you're all invited to our CAC meeting next week and all the CAC meetings. If you're interested in participating in our advocacy efforts, you can email me. We have separate meetings that go on based on everybody's availability. So we do try to be as flexible as possible. Thanks, Daniela.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Does anyone have any questions, feedback? Okay.
Great, thanks. And next on the agenda, I have updates for the LPC demographic forms. I did send out an email yesterday with the edits and the revisions. I will share my screen with you now. That from me.
I think so. Oh no, I think maybe Ina.
What did I do?
Nothing, we just hear some background noise from a microphone. Thanks, Ina.
Thank you. Okay, can everyone see this? Okay, great. So actually, I think Giovanna is gonna go into more detail about this, but this is what it looks like. Not many changes, but just a few.
Minor changes, but I think you all will appreciate those minor changes as well. So for everyone who knows, being a local prevention council, you do have to submit a final report as well as a quarterly demographics. Quarterly demographics, Daniela has sent out those dates so that you meet that deadline, but also just know if you didn't do an event during that quarter, then you don't need to submit anything, right? There's no, a simple email saying we didn't do any events will suffice our records so that we know not to reach out to you and say, hey, can you send those forms to us? But this form here, yet again, it has been updated because we're seeing some repetitive errors, if not on our own end, also on your end. So we wanted to fix that. One is the boxes are bigger. So you can put in 1,000, 1,500 and be able to see the entire number. So that is a plus. Excuse me, Mateo's in music class right now. So you're gonna hear a lot of drumming. So that has been updated. The LPC program name, it's either T-Pod or Fairfield Cares or New Canaan Cares. That's what you're putting in there. The grant that you're reporting on is either LPC or SOAR, right? So, and I want to make sure that I don't confuse anybody, but when you're reporting on anything, you want to circle which one it is. Anything that has to do with opioids, Narcan, it's a SOAR, right? Anything that has to do with prevention, awareness, education is an LPC initiative, right? So we talk about our local priority and our statewide priority. Whatever those are and whatever activities you're using and using LPC dollars for, that is what you fill out the demographic form for, okay? The type of activity we decided to change because the impact system is based on the CSAP strategies, okay? So I thought instead of you guys having to figure out which activity it was, I think it would be best if we had you check it off, right? Information dissemination, positive alternative activities. The CSAP strategies final document you all have, Daniela.
Yes, it's also on the LPC private resource page, but I'll send it again in a follow-up email with the minutes and everything.
Yes. So based on that CSAP strategy is you can really, that document can really help you in completing this demographic form, okay? It does have the different initiatives that you do have that you typically would do in your community in that document. So type of activity, you're just choosing one, right? Each activity, you may have, each event that you have, you may have multiple activities, right? Which is fine, but you do have to fill out multiple demographic forms then, okay? So if you have one activity, one event that is information dissemination and prevention education. So information dissemination, you may have had a table of information that you gave out to all of the attendees. The prevention education piece may be a freshman forum, or it could have been a Narcan training or a QPR training, or maybe you had a speaker talking about vaping. I thought of Darian just now, right? So prevention education would have been that vaping presentation. But you do have to have two different forms because those are two different strategies. And most likely, you're going to have two different codes then, right? So we need to identify that that way. The event service title, whatever that title is, whatever you named it, in promotion, that's what you want to put there. Description of event service is really important because for myself and Devin, who inputs the data into impact, we need to know what that description is so we can put it into the system and not have Demas question what that event description was, okay? So it's important that you state what it was for or what was the intention. Event service date, so type code, service type code, you have those codes in the application, LPC application. Service population, the date, code, and population, we haven't seen much of any errors. Everyone is doing great on that. Service location, please make sure when you're filling this out, you do answer all of the questions so that there is no room for us to guess, assume, or if Demas had an audit, of course, if Demas has an audit, we have an audit. And if these aren't filled out fully, then we could potentially get into trouble as well, okay? So making sure that all of the boxes are filled out. Daniela, can you go up for me and so I can go to the next? And as you can see in the update, we did say one form per activity, recurring service, so that you understand that. The demographic information is really important. I know it says estimated or actual. If you don't know, if you did not count how many people attended the event because it was a general community event, I get it, but you do have to put something in there and it's not unknown. Okay, having it unknown for every single demographic form just is not conducive for Demas's records in the data system. Okay, so I will say if you don't know, you can always base your answer on your community census population. You can go that route. You can go, you may have had a similar event that you could use those same numbers if you chose to, but it can't always be unknown. I will accept one demographic form to say unknown. I get it, but not all of them, okay? Number of participants by age, gender, race, for the most part, everybody is doing fine with that. I have no issues, or Devin and I don't have any issues, but just making sure that you fill that information out. So number of participants by gender, it's either all male, all female, splitting it up, however whatever the participants are, that's what you do have to put in there, okay? Scroll down. Another thing is these forms, and I know some folks hate it, but we have to have this on typed up. We cannot, moving forward, have people fill these forms out by hand. It took a lot of time just to decipher some people's handwriting, and that is just, it was a pain in the tush. So moving forward, no more writing in. We have to have it on the computer, okay, typed up. Scroll back up. Any questions on this?
Hey, I had a question on the participants by race, because it lists American Indian / Alaska Native, and then it also has Native American / Pacific Islander. So I thought that was probably supposed to be Asian Pacific Islander, which is a more normal category. But then there's also Asian. So how are we differentiating Native American and American Indian? Like, that's not, those aren't normal demographic categories.
Oh, I know. And Caitlin and us, we had this conversation in the last HUD meeting, and unfortunately, impact is not always right. and we know that it is incorrect. However, though, this information is actually taken out from impact. So I can't change this because then it's just gonna open more doors for errors on our end. And then Demas is probably going to just say, unfortunately, sadly, they may just dismiss me on that. Even though we know that the races, those two races are incorrect on this document. And Caitlin was fierce when we were talking about this, and I unfortunately can't do anything about it. But I did say, I did bring it up in our last RBHAO meeting to make them aware that that's incorrect. Whether or not they change it in impact and ask us to change it on this form is another story.
Right. Gotcha. Well, it's good because we're at least in a part of the country where we don't have a huge population in that category to be like misrecording.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing that I noticed that too, Giovanna, the other thing I wanted to mention, because words matter, is, and again, I know you can't do anything about it, but raise it as an issue. We should no longer be seeing the term substance abusers under service population. You know, there's listed there children of substance abusers. It's children with parents with substance use disorders. We want to be using that term substance use disorders as much as possible. You know, it's amazing from SAMHSA and from ONDCP and DFC how often I'm seeing the term abusers, which I think at this point we should know better. And just another comment, so our service code and the description of the event should be going hand in hand, I'm assuming. So, you know, there shouldn't be any discrepancy there.
So for the population, Kathy?
Yeah, service population, the third one listed, children of substance abusers.
No. Oh, I know. Again, this document is literally spitting out what's in impact, and I totally understand what you're saying about words matter, and I will bring that up again to them in the next meeting in hopes that that does get changed. But really, this demographic form, they care about it, but they don't care about it, right? And I try to make sure I mirror what's an impact so that the data person that enters this information, there's no room for confusion. But I do understand, and I agree with you, words do matter. And as much as on our end, we make sure that we don't say the word abusers, right? Substance misuse or substance use disorder. But I will bring it up again. As for your comment about the description of service and the type code, yeah, the type code and service should be somewhat similar, correct? But so for example, it would be, so say the service type code would be STC06 for a training, QPR training, right? So, but the code is the code says STC06 training services, right? But in the description, it says a delivery of structure prevention training intended to develop professional proficiency in prevention program design, development, and delivery, okay? That wouldn't be a description of your event, right? The description of the event would be who was it intended for? So you completed a QPR training. Was it to the community at large? Was it to school social workers? Was it to who, right? Did you present it at a treatment program? That is the description that we want to see and read in your reports. So more specific, more micro, not a macro, meso or macro level description, a micro description. Does that help? You're on mute, I can't hear you.
I didn't have an issue with that. I just wanted to point out that that should be more or less, working together, yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, so that is what will be used moving forward. James did also point out that April 15th is Good Friday. The state, that's the day that they picked. So anytime that week to submit them is fine, just by the 15th. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have SOAR. Is anyone in the region doing any upcoming Narcan trainings?
I probably should speak on that as well.
We just did one. Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, we just did one yesterday internally for the staff at Positive Directions, and we have 2 requests in Norwalk, one for one of the high schools and one for the community care team.
And then we also have a request, Margaret, from the fire department, one of the fire stations.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it came to my email. So it's 3 in Norwalk.
Okay.
Great. So for the SOAR applications, I received them on the 7th. I will be reviewing them starting today, and everyone will get emails, if not today, by early next week, so that I can submit to the accountant a request for $5,000. And I will email you letting you know that I have done that as well, so that you can anticipate the check, except for a couple of you receive direct deposits. And I'll let you know when that happens. Typically, the check will be written out within 2 weeks.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments for SOAR? Okay. Next on the agenda is vaping, the vaping initiative for the LPCs. I have on the agenda marijuana and vapes. I'm just curious if towns are seeing more of that recently, less of, about the same. Are you having any issues?
Well, let's talk about what happened yesterday, right? With the three youth in Hartford, right? One out of the three is in critical condition or has passed away. From my DCF meeting yesterday, he was saying that the kid may not even live. And that was from an exposure of fentanyl in the school.
Can you just tell us what happened yesterday? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Three youth in a Hartford school. I want to say the youngest one was 13 years old. And two of them were discombobulated and had signs of potential overdoses, but they didn't necessarily lose consciousness, I should say. They ended up getting Narcan and found out that, of course, there was some fentanyl because they started to feel a little better, but they did end up going into the hospital. The 13-year-old sadly dropped, and he was in critical condition. The nurse at the school was doing CPR until first responders came, where he was still alive at that point, but in critical condition. As of my DCF meeting yesterday at 5 p.m., DCF was saying that they didn't think he was even going to live overnight. I have not seen anything yet from the news or anything, or from DCF saying otherwise, but what a tragedy. The principal of the school sent out a letter via email to all of the parents, just saying what a tragedy, and that everyone needs to talk about fentanyl to their children, and how if they are experimenting, to really think about them doing that. It was confirmed that it was fentanyl, especially in this principal's email as well. But that's all I have for you. I'm not too sure if it was a vape device.
No, that they were saying powder. They were saying they found bags of powdered substance in the school in multiple locations. So it didn't suggest vape. The coverage also said, like, they got the kids out and the kids had to walk through bleach.
Yes.
And they had to thoroughly clean the school because obviously it was fentanyl. So it was really missed opportunity in the media to explain like why they had to walk, like how deadly and dangerous this is. I was disappointed that they didn't draw a better connection between that. But they didn't say it was vapes, just for clarification.
Yeah.
But
I did read that too, how they had to walk across and bleach to leave the schools. And one nurse ended up in the hospital because she had a panic attack. It was not a good day in Hartford yesterday. So of course that got me thinking too, because what are we doing? I'd like to hear a little bit about what people are doing in reaching out to parents or PTOs to see, are parents talking to their children? Are they aware of this? I'm just thinking on a campaign level, you think already, and I really would like to do something regionally, whether it be a postcard with fentanyl and say something. I don't know what yet, but we got to do something. This is scary stuff.
Fairfield, so Kathy, I think it was Rainey that shared on Facebook a really impactful video of it was a documentary of parents who had lost their children to fentanyl overdoses, and not very long. I think it was like 20 minutes or so, but it was really, really powerful. And I can't remember the name of it. So I don't know if you know, Kathy, but I think probably Fairfield Care shares a lot. You have a really great social media presence, but it was done in December and I can't remember the name of it, but like I sent it to my kids because I was like, this is just so impactful.
Yeah, we are planning to do a postcard campaign we were targeting sort of May, because May is mental health month with regard to marijuana and fentanyl. But I just made a note that I think something sooner from the school should really go out from the superintendent and the coalition together. So
Thank you.
so critical.
The other piece is I think we keep talking about opioid crisis, and I think people are still thinking heroin and oxys, and I think we need to change our language as well about the risks of fentanyl, because I think people have started to like tune out the opioid messaging that we're doing. And even Margaret's last Westport Coalition meeting, there was a state rep on, and he was asking us about kind of the opioid crisis, and even he didn't seem to draw the line to fentanyl. So I think we could probably get people's attention a little better, because we'll be talking about something a little different than what we've been talking about for the last like 6 years. But I would love to see if anyone's working on any really good messaging or any really good campaign that you think is all about fentanyl, but we need to maybe amplify that.
And that's my intention for this new contract with Daydream Communications. We were hoping to have a meeting sooner than later to really talk about what our next steps are to respond to what is really happening. I will say, Melissa, Caitlin, and Victoria, and Daniela just recently updated the Narcan PowerPoint for us and included the fourth wave, which is steering more away from the opioid crisis, but just just kind of emphasizing about that it is a fentanyl world, a synthetic world now, and they will also be changing their language so that then we're kind of moving from that opioid oxy. It's from a prescribed doctor conversation, because it's not anymore. And in our prevention, ADPC prevention statewide meeting, that has also been talked about as well. So I think you'll start to hear different people, at least I know the RBHAOs have included the fourth wave, and we'll be talking a little bit more about synthetic opioids and man-made substances, more so now than ever.
Giovanna, going back to your original question, you were asking about vaping, and then we started talking about fentanyl, and I feel like it's two different areas that we need to give attention to, right?
Yep.
I mean, maybe there's fentanyl in the vapes, but anyway, just to answer your question, in both the Westport and Norwalk coalitions, everyone's been saying there's more vaping, like it's coming back. We've talked to the kids who run our clubs, and they're like, you walk into any bathroom and they're vaping. In Westport, apparently kids are having lunch in the bathrooms and sitting all together in a bathroom stall. Remember that, Melissa? That was just one of the weirder things that I've heard. Like, why? Maybe it's because you can have your mask off. I don't know. That doesn't sound safe from any perspective. But yeah, vaping is back up, and it's like the Westport kids were reporting that they thought when kids were vaping at school that it was nicotine. Maybe because that's like easier to bring into the school and whatever, but our youth surveys in Westport, the survey in Westport from last spring actually said that a larger percentage of the time when they were using vaping devices, it was for cannabis, not nicotine.
How many people are in survey years, excuse me? Just wondering, is that a question that have you asked to the students, or will you be asking?
We surveyed right before Christmas, and we asked about vaping THC separately from vaping nicotine.
Has everyone else been doing that, or?
I did a charter school. This is Ina. I don't know why my camera's not working. I did a charter school of 277 students between the ages of 12 to 17, 18 years old. I gave them a 4-question survey. What we got back, which also ranged from 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. The 9th and 10th graders are doing vape more than the other two, but the 7th and 8th graders are behind them, and the seniors are last. And one of the questions was, how often do you vape? And I would say out of all of those students, we probably had a total of, I want to say 33 students out of 277 are vaping, and they're vaping on a consistent basis. They're in school, out of school, they're doing it. What surprised me was when I asked the question, which all was done at the time by paper, how many kids were exposed to vaping. That's troubling because it's about 62%. Even though they said that they're not doing it, they have been exposed to either seeing someone else do it, or they've seen it, they're aware of it. When we got into talking about things such as fentanyl or fentanyl strips, as you know, with syringe exchange has carried our syringe exchange vans carries fentanyl strips. So when they're exchanging needles, they're also giving out strips. Speaking of commercials, that's the one that blew my mind because now they're starting to have commercials with Narcan. They're talking about fentanyl strips, and I still don't think that most parents understand the gravity of what fentanyl can do until it happens in their community. So, or until it happens to their kid. But I am finding that parents are not talking to their children. They're asking the question, well, how soon is soon? How soon should I be talking to our kids? And we're like, listen, if you think that 12, 13 is the age, you need to rethink that. Unfortunately, kids come from different backgrounds in the neighborhood. You don't know who's doing what, but 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, they know what's going on in their neighborhoods.
Absolutely. Scary.
I want to piggyback on what Anya just said about how soon should you talk to parents to extend an invitation, you guys, that on the 20th, so there's a prevention film aimed at parents called Don't Wait. It's from addictionisreal.org. I've seen it, maybe a couple of us have seen it, but Westport, we're showing it on the 25th for, at what time? At like 10, I think. For anyone who wants to just come see it and see if you want to go show it in your coalition. So I know several coalitions are going to join us for that. Anybody can. If you come and see it, we can, everybody can go back to their community and decide if you want to invest in it. But it's $500 to have a 1-month license to show it, as many times as you want during that month. You can show it on Zoom if you want to have an organized meeting, or you can provide individual links to parents so they can watch it on their own. I know what we've talked about in Westport is that we probably want to get it out through PTOs and say, you guys have until whatever date to watch it. And then your school's PTO is going to get together for a follow-up discussion with anyone interested on X date.
So Margaret, we just did it in Greenwich right before the holidays. And the month viewing period is so great because some of these other films are like you can only watch it for 48 hours or something. And people don't, they forget. I mean, they even forgot with this one, but we had over 200 people request the link and only 73 ended up watching it. So But it really, for the ones who did watch it, it was very powerful and they liked it a lot. And we had a parent discussion group this past week, and we actually did bring up the fentanyl issue because parents did not know what that was. It was a small group, but we're hoping to continue those discussions at some point. So anyway, it was, I think it was worth it. Definitely worth it.
Actually, and that's good to hear
$500.
that the parents who actually attended liked it, because
Yeah.
I mean, when I watched it, I was like trying to figure out, like, what if you're a parent who doesn't know any of this? Does it feel like too much? But everybody, it's like a 52-minute film. It's really not that long of an investment.
Yeah.
So just
A lot
email
of
me if you want
parents-
to come and check it out.
A lot of parents asked if their kids should view it with them. And the other issue is that, you have the link. Once you request the link, you have it for 48 hours. So I always suggested to them, watch it first and then see, depending on the age of your child and maturity level, because there is some, there's a lot of talk of overdose and some pretty painful stuff gets brought up in the film. So.
And do you think the parents were using some of those parent materials that come with it, or were you guys using that for the discussion?
We used it for the discussion, and I emailed it out to everyone, so they have it. But it's great because they have it by age. They break it down by age. So if you have an elementary school child, middle school, high school, and we did have a parent who has 2 elementary school children on the discussion, and she said, "I'm sure this is too early for me to be involved." And we're like, "Nope, this is the right time for you to." So it was good.
That's great.
I wanted to ask Diamond, are you still here? Can you talk about what the kids at McMahon were saying about the kid who greened out, and make sure everyone knows what that term is and what that means? The kids.
I'm here. So the incident that happened regarding the 2 kids, right? The freshmen. So basically they said that the girl was near the bathroom, around the bathroom, somewhere in that incident. And she took 5 long puffs off of a dab pen. It was a bunch of older kids. She's a freshman, wanted to fit in or whatever that may look like, and took 5 long puffs. They were talking, she started to feel drowsy. They went into the bathroom, and she they didn't use the term passed out, they used greened out, where she spaced out. I'm not sure if she fell. I didn't actually see the video. So they brought her, some kids left out of being scared, and a person who wasn't her friend but saw her brought her to the nurse's office. When they brought her to the nurse's office, the nurse kind of wet her face. She was brought back to conscious and was able to tell them what she did, where she did it, who she did it with, the friend that she did it with. He was called down. They both were sent to the hospital. No Narcan was given. Everybody in the school kept saying that she was vaping, like it had fentanyl in it. And the kids were very adamant that it was not any of that. It was a dab pen, and she took 5 long puffs. I believe it was her first time ever smoking at all. So, and she's a little girl. She's 13, very small, very little. So 1 long puff to her would have made her lightheaded. So 5 long puffs made her extremely lightheaded, and that's what they call greened out, when you're lightheaded and you kind of zone out, and it's not a full-on pass out. You're able to come and regain conscious, but you're just lightheaded and like spaced out in a sense. Like, so they call that greened out, or what, right, Margaret?
Yeah, greening out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what was really scary, so that's the case that got reported by News 12 as kids having overdosed on fentanyl in vapes, but it never came back from the vape contents did get sent to get tested. And as far as I know, the results never came back, but Narcan was not administered. And
No.
that's what the kids and the nurse were saying, that, she came to on her own. But I thought what was really scary was that, one of the health teachers, the health department chair in that building, is one of our leadership team members. And she was just talking about how all the kids in all the health classes were like, why is everybody making such a big deal? Because the
Right.
superintendent's office sent stuff out. It was in the papers. And the kids were like, but people green out all the time. Like, why would anybody be upset about this? So I thought it was very concerning to think that the kids are thinking it is normal to become like essentially almost unconscious
Right.
after using a product, and that it's okay to do
Even-
that on campus.
Even though I still don't think that it got, I heard you guys speaking, and I do agree with Melissa and Kathy and G regarding the attention behind it. I don't think, because the timing of that, it happened on the same day that all those threats and bomb threats were happening at Norwalk High. Yes, some publication went out, whether we agree with it or not, right, Margaret? With what went out, whether we agree with that or not, I still don't think it got the attention that it should have because of those other threats, which I'm not saying those weren't as important, but and the only reason why I say that is because I was on a call with someone from the city regarding those incidents, and I brought up the potential overdose, and they were like, wait, what? When did that happen? And I'm like, people that you work with put something out, and they were like, oh, we're not even talking about that. We were talking about precautions regarding the bomb threats. And I was like, well, we should be including what happens, because I also run the school-based health centers. And here at McMahon, my staff did get involved in it, in the potential overdose. So I think we do need to do something regarding awareness to that. I don't think all the teachers were aware. Like I said, a lot did go on that week, and not to take away, not to say one is more important than the other or anything like that, but I think we do need to come back and reiterate. The issue is, like, with Norwalk right now, trying not to step on anyone's toes, but I do feel like administration should, as a partnership, we could put out as much, but I do think it should be a collaboration with some type of either training, information. I know Melissa from CGS did reach out, but that's one little school and a big school. So, if there is something that we could do to maybe get some more awareness as to what's going on with the vapes and fentanyl and stuff, then I think that is important. Here in McMahon alone, they've already confiscated 44 vapes for the year and 2 road bonds and a pack of papers and stuff. So it is still prevalent and things are happening. So.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I was not familiar with the term greening out either. That's definitely scary that they find that normal and that it's happening as often as it is.
Right, because if that was happening, these kids do that all the time. So imagine, like, it'll be, and the fact that they don't take it as serious, it'll be that one time that they say it's a green out, and God forbid, it's something else. And like I said, with the girl that passed out, most of the kids that were there, it was a video, they walked away. So imagine if she did, like anything, if somebody else walked in and, so I think that's the important part of it too, because it's not just a green out, they take it as a joke. Like,
well, the fact that they're videoing it.
Yeah.
Oh
there was a recording. Yeah, there was a recording in the bathroom.
Did they post it on social media?
I think so, but I think it was quickly taken down because of the, administration came trying to figure out who was involved. But just imagine when it happens, at someone's house, or if a kid is alone and a parent walks into the room, how devastating is that? Oh, I'm just going to sleep. I greened out. I just went to sleep for a little bit. Like that's very scary and alarming to me, at least.
I agree. Maybe we can create something as a region where we kind of update a sheet with these terms as well, and we can share them with everyone so they're familiar. Because
even with the police, because they aren't familiar with the difference between a vape and a dab pen. So I think the terminology is very important, because everybody just considers everything under one big umbrella, and it's not, especially when you're talking to youth. When you're not using the right terminology, they look at you like you don't mean anything. You lose credibility.
Yes, absolutely. And things are changing constantly, but I have heard from other police officers as well that they're confiscating these items and having to Google what they are because they're not sure, So I think some kind of document or something, if we can create just with terms and share them throughout the region.
Mm-hmm.
well, kind of similar, but next on the agenda, I had marijuana and the fentanyl. And then if there were any updates with towns on marijuana sales and distribution. I know there is a list that is constantly updated with what each town is doing.
Melissa, if you don't mind, I heard you and John Davio did a great job in your marijuana and presentation about the law and the substance to Wilton Youth Council, right?
Yeah, thank you.
So if you don't mind just kind of talking about that, and are you going on a rodeo show?
Well, we've developed a little bit of a side hustle, John Davio and I, because there's just a lot of confusion around today's marijuana and the new law. So we started off being asked to speak. He got asked and he brought me in to speak to all the youth service bureaus at their annual conference in the fall, which was great. And then we got invited to speak to the list up in Manchester, which was a totally different audience. And then Wilton was looking for someone. So yeah, we've devised a presentation, which I'm happy to share. We have been charging for it when we go to coalitions and other places, just so you know. So it's a side, it is different from my TPOD work. Just to explain kind of the risks of today's marijuana and then what's in the bill, what's in the law, because people haven't had the chance to dig into that 303-page piece of legislation with its 167 subsections to truly understand kind of what's outlined in the law, what's permitted, what's not permitted. So we had a great, and then we do a little piece on advocacy as well. And so I do have that information, happy to share it, obviously, so you can do it with your own coalitions. There's a couple of things going on with obviously cannabis. There is a group of coalitions working across the state to expand mention prevention. Let's mention prevention to include marijuana. So we're working on videos. Kirsten's doing most of the legwork and she's not with us today, but they're doing videos and social media posts and things that you can put on billboards and digital ads in your local newspapers and also lawn signs. So if anyone wants to get involved with that, they'll be shared just like mention prevention was around alcohol. So there is that in the works. I want to praise Margaret because on Monday, Positive Directions pulled together a legislative breakfast. They did it in about a month over the holidays for Norwalk and Westport. And I sit on the Westport Coalition as a parent. But Margaret did a great job of pulling in various constituents from both communities. I think they had every legislator from those two towns except for one. And then they even got some bonus legislators who, like from Stamford, who sat in and people spoke about how the law is impacting their work. They had prevention people talking about that. They had the law enforcement, they had community members, just talking about areas of the law that are particularly of concern. Things like the fact that the cap on THC is at 30% for plant and 60% for concentrates when researchers define high potency as 10%. And then our law specifically excludes pre-filled vapes, which from our previous conversation is kind of the product of choice for kids. So, we will be able to have sales of those products at 90, 95%. So as a prevention person, that is, something we're all concerned about. Things like the loophole in the billboard piece. So even though it says you can't place a billboard unless 90% of the viewers of that billboard are over the age of 21, there's nothing in the law about how that's measured. So we're pretty sure Lamar measures their viewers between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. when it's all truck drivers, because otherwise you wouldn't have that billboard sitting right above Webster Arena that's been there for months and months and months. So we all raised a bunch of issues, and I think the legislators asked good questions and they were open. Obviously, there's a lot of follow-up work that needs to be done because some of these things can be fixed in the rules and regulations. Some of them may require amendments. For those of you with DFC funding, this isn't lobbying, this is education, and you are 100% permitted to talk to your legislators about what your issues are with what was passed last spring. So there's a lot going on, I think, about marijuana right now. There's a ton of education. I mean, so when John and I presented the list in Manchester, there must have been 24 social workers and providers who work for DCF on that, and they had no idea what was in that bill. They had no, I mean, they were like, how did we let this pass? Why are we doing this? Why didn't we speak up? And I literally was like, why didn't you speak up? Like, you know, it was stunning. And then we also, because Margaret and I have routinely like dug into the bill, Control F is your friend. You gotta like dig through that thing. The hub sent out those enforcement guides for law enforcement that were wonderful, that were prepared by DMIS and DCP and Department of Public Health. They don't mention that there's a social host law for marijuana.
Right.
Did you know?
Yeah.
There is. You think that would be on there, right? There are also driver's license penalties for marijuana possession. That's not on there. So even the people who are supposed to be the experts of what's on that in that law and supposed to be guiding us and our law enforcement partners are missing like big pieces that need to be covered. I mean, Margaret, you probably have other areas that you want to talk about.
No, thank you for, you relieved me from it. Yeah, I can share with you guys the sort of briefing note and the slides or video presentation. We had a recorded piece too that was just like the basic marijuana education for the legislators. I can share that out with anyone who's interested, but I think one of our intentions in doing this was that we have, you know, the co-chair of the Public Health Committee is in the Westport Prevention Coalition, and 3 of the legislators that covered those 2 towns are on the Public Health Committee. So we're kind of hoping the Public Health Committee can raise an amendment this year to address some of the things that are like really specific loopholes, right? Like, you know, if you reopen the bill, it's going to be a big, huge issue. It's not going to go anywhere, especially in a short session. But like, they can close loopholes like that pre-filled vape thing, right? They can close, you know, we really had an ask that was like, you know, why are you treating alcohol offenses for underage alcohol offenses so differently from underage cannabis offenses? Different ages, different penalties, basically actual penalties for alcohol, but none for cannabis. You know, different, whatever. So we just kind of were like trying to draw their attention to that. Whether or not the public health piece works out, but I'm hoping it will. We're going to kind of push on that. It was just really good, like Melissa said, that we got all the legislators essentially to come. Even the one who didn't come was intending to come, and his aide came, because this, you know, we're trying to say to them, like, this is a whole new market you've created. You guys have to be educated about this. We did bring the Westport and Norwalk coalitions together for this intentionally, because, you know, we were able to say, you know, those are the 2 coalitions like that Positive Directions is working with right now that are willing to do sort of advocacy at a statewide level. But we also were that way we were able to say to them, this is one market, because Westport already banned cannabis sales. So where are Westport and, you know, Darien and the other 2 W's, where are those guys going to go to buy? They're going to go to Norwalk. So just bringing that to their attention and saying, like, you have to pay attention to this. But on a positive note, I've heard a rumor that Norwalk is considering a moratorium for a year. That is like a hush hush, like maybe that's happening, but no one's supposed to know yet. So it'd be interesting.
Right.
So for those that are looking to have some type of presentation within their own community, if you have money in your budget, you please reach out to Melissa or John Davio and request their PowerPoint to be presented. But I also want to just touch base on Caitlin too, and Caitlin also compiled other people's marijuana bill legislation awareness PowerPoints and created hers and she presented to Fairfield, if I'm not mistaken. So I just want to let people know that, was it Fairfield or no? I'm looking at Kathy, and Kathy is giving me this look. So am I misspeaking?
An overview on the, she gave us an overview on the law. That, that was it. It wasn't what other towns were doing or anything like that. It was just.
No, I know. No,
focusing on the
Kathy,
law.
I understand that. I'm just trying to say that she's presented to a coalition already, which is your coalition, correct? An overview of the marijuana bill?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So there is a PowerPoint already. If you are looking to take it on and review and want to present to your coalition, please reach out to Caitlin. She'll be happy to share that. I think also that should be on the private page if it is already, so that you can do whatever you want with it, however you see fit for your community at large.
Can I just ask how long these presentations generally are, Melissa or Caitlin? Or
the first couple we did, they only gave us 45 minutes and we like cruised through that. And then yesterday, Wilton gave us the hour and a half of their coalition. So I think we presented for like an hour, hour and 5, but there were a lot of questions and discussion around advocacy and what they could do to educate, a lot of discussion of their parents, their particular risk factors locally. It was a great, I mean, it was a relatively small group. I think it was like 12 to 15 people, but it was a really good conversation that they got to have after that we just helped participate.
Okay.
So
and
it
then
can be kind of adapted.
Do you know when the Let's Mention prevention materials are going to be
The
accessible?
video's out. You can find the first video, which I think I've seen, Kirsten posted on the TPOD Facebook page. So you can see that. It's just a brief kind of video introducing the concept of like the potency. It's targeted to parents. But that's started. So it'll look similar. I mean, I haven't seen I don't know that I've seen drafts of like the other materials yet. I've seen drafts of some of the social media posts and some of the banner ads, and they're banging on, they're really focusing on potency. They're focusing on social host, and they're focusing on how it doesn't look the way, like kind of the new forms of, so I made sure that they included vaping, dabs, because I was like, if you include dabs, people can use their LPC money for this campaign. If you don't include dabs, then, you have a narrower audience of potential coalition. So they are including the whole dab concept and how potent they are, because we think that's where a real gap for parents. Another piece, I got invited, the coalitions might think about, I got invited to the YMCA in Trumbull and our senior services to do a presentation on cannabis for older adults. And that was like totally out of my wheelhouse. Like I had to stop talking about the developing brain. But if you start digging into the risks for older adults using CBD and THC and the coronary, there's cardiac implications, there's mixing alcohol and cannabis, mixing cannabis and THC, CBD with prescription medications. There's tons of risk information out there. And if that's an audience, and then we did safe storage, right? Like, because they're more likely to enter into the cannabis use with gummies or with edibles. So we're like talking a lot about edibles, talking about safe storage and making sure kids don't get them. But that's a whole audience that might be primed for this messaging and then use their influence kind of to the younger members of their family. So it was a really fascinating conversation. I hadn't, and so I've got a PowerPoint for that too, if anyone wants.
So on that note, Melissa, there was a really good research paper that came out just a while ago and talking about CBD and the implications and how it can affect a number of typically over-the-counter prescribed medications. And I sent it to Dr. D'Souza because it had just come out. Because one of the gaps in legislation is the fact that medical marijuana dispensaries, there's no mandated education, which is something we're working on. But to that point, I'll send that paper out because it was fascinating. And Dr. D'Souza sent me back an NPR link. I haven't even had a chance to fully hear it, but I can send it to Daniela to send out to everybody. But there are so many typically prescriptions that older adults get that it's in the implications on CBD, and there's no discussion on it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and doctors don't ask doctors don't ask their older adult patients, and now those questionnaires say things like, do you use illicit drugs, right? They don't ask, they ask if you smoke, they ask if you drink, they ask if you use illicit drugs. They don't ask if you take CBD or THC. And then no pharmacies are, so you go pick up your prescription for your blood thinner, your warfarin, and it doesn't say on there, it says don't mix with that, don't take vitamin K, but it doesn't say don't mix with THC or CBD. No pharmacies are offering interaction warnings.
We have the alcohol and medication thing that they preach to older adults. We have that whole list, but we don't have anything for CBD. So this paper just came out. So I asked Dr. D'Souza to take a look at it so that we could create something around that, because that information is critical. It's amazing what it affects.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
As far as the hub, our presentation, and as you know, what we do, we compile all the information. So we've been tracking the towns. We have info on the social hosting law. I agree with Melissa, sitting down to go through that bill was definitely a task, but I, came out much more informed. So our presentation, the slides they're quite lengthy, and we really just present on whatever time we are allotted to, so it can be short or lengthy. We also have some visuals. So if you're not aware, the legalized amount of cannabis is equivalent to almost 100 or even a little bit more of cigarette-sized joints that can be rolled. So we have a visual of what that looks like that we can put all together in the PowerPoint slides and put it on our private page and send it out. Just if you want to incorporate some visuals and such, we have one that's on THC and CBD and the different research and effects for each, potency and all things like that, and edibles as well.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing that. Does anyone else have any other comments on marijuana?
Just real quick, Fairfield Cares, the coalition is going to be reviewing the draft that our task force put together to decide what angle we're going to be advocating for, whether it will be a total complete ban, no commercial marijuana enterprises whatsoever in the town, or as the draft was written, we also indicated specific recommendations that we had based on SAMHSA's recommendations and Smart Approaches to Marijuana recommendations, or do we do both? So we're going to have that discussion at our next coalition meeting on the 19th. We're keeping an eye on the planning and zoning meeting that will be bringing this up. Apparently Fairfield does have a moratorium on any cannabis enterprises for a year, but we're just trying to get more direction as to what's happening there. So if anybody wants to see what the task force has prepared, happy to share that. We've got references for all of our materials as well.
I would love to see that. I just emailed Margaret about what she had just talked about. So our planning committee is actually, the regulations are on the agenda for next week. So I talked to the woman who's in charge of the committee, and she said she'd take any information.
James, Stratford hasn't decided whether or not they were gonna, okay.
Nope, it was on the agenda, oh geez, in like
holiday.
October, November.
Yeah.
And they never, I sat on a meeting for 4 hours and they never got to it on the agenda. And then by the time they got to the next meeting was the election time. So then there's been turnover and no meetings, and it's just been a sit and wait type of thing, but apparently next week.
Okay. Last on the agenda, I just had upcoming awareness days and months. That document is also on the private LPC page, but I have been a part of the National Prevention Week planning committee. National Prevention Week this year is May 8th through the 14th. The theme this year is strengthen community, build resilience, and create hope. They are, as of now, planning to host this in person this year at the Discovery Museum in Bridgeport. I will send out further details as it gets closer. Things may change depending on how things go with COVID, but they're really trying and hoping and pushing for in person this year.
With that said, it's in our region. I hope everyone, if it is in person, I hope everyone is able to attend, have a table event. We're gonna see if Liberation programs can come with their Narcan van, get some Narcan trainings outside. I'm hoping that we will show up as we always do, because the committee always looks at Region 1 because they love what we do and how we do it, and just dedicating that week to all of our prevention efforts. They really do appreciate that. So with that said, to be continued, but I hope everyone will be able to join if it is in person.
Kristen?
Thanks, Daniela. They, I presume, is Demas?
Yes, and the RBHAOs all throughout the state, all 5 of us.
So the decision was made by the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services to do it here. And can you say the date for the potential in-person event, which of course I am very much hoping will be in person by then?
Kristen, it's actually the resource links that the committee, the National Prevention Week committee, makes that decision. So Demas has the final, Demas always has the final say, as always, but every year they have tried to have each year they try to put have the event in each of our region. So they had it a couple years ago at in Hartford at the baseball field. And of course, the last 2 years have been virtual. One has, I think the last 2 in-persons were in Hartford. And 2 years ago, we were planning on having it here at the, what was it called last year? The museum in Norwalk, the Kids Museum.
Stepping Stones.
Stepping Stones. We were supposed to have it at Stepping Stones and that canceled because of COVID. So now they pursued another place in our area. So hopefully it works out.
I think that's awesome. And I concur. What is the date for that actual event again?
So they haven't decided officially, but it'll either be May 14th or 15th, because that Sunday, May 8th is Mother's Day. So they're trying to see which day would make the most sense, but it'll be one of those 2 days. But yes, I'm very excited it's here. They did provide great feedback, positive feedback from Region 1, as Giovanna was saying, especially last year with everything being online, with everything I sent out and creating that May Mental Awareness Month calendar. They were so excited to see all the events you hosted and things that you were doing throughout the region. But I believe that is all. Yes, that is the end of the agenda. Our next regional meeting will be April 8th, Friday from 10 a.m. to 12. Does anyone have any final questions, comments, feedback?
I would just say, for those that are sharing information, if you don't mind, when you hang up, if you can just take 5 minutes to send over whatever documents you would like to share with Daniela, so we can complete the minutes and send this email out to everyone, because I'm sure, at least for James, it's time sensitive to make sure that we get all of the information to everyone. And we will also put it on the private page.
Yes. And in that email, I will include the doodle poll for not next week, but the following week for LPC mid-year check-ins. So it'll be kind of a lengthy email, but Everything will be there. All right. No one has anything else. Thank you so much for being here today, and I will send out that email shortly, and I hope you guys have a nice weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Nice to see you.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you all. Stay safe.
Thank you for your information. Bye-bye.